This is Mr. C. Charles Miller on the ministry road. I guess I could consider myself everybody's online pastor. How's that sound? That's the biggest church. Whoo, it takes a lot to get a church that big. Online? Yes, indeed. Online, so we preach to the Philippines. We preach to Saudi Arabia. We preach to Guyana, Africa. We preach to Australia, Cambodia, China. We sure do. They got people that listen to the ministry road from all those parts of the world, and it's a great thing. Message this morning, I want to talk about a very special people, and I need to bring to attention the best that I can about how important it is that you was born when you did today, in this time frame. You are born and you walking, and the soles of your feet are touching planet Earth right now, and you still breathe in the air that God gave, and you exist because of the breath that God breathed in mankind, and you are alive today. We are today the only thing we picked the baton up. I used to run track, and we would run relays, and when you would finish your lap around the field, you gave that baton to somebody else, and they grabbed it, and then they ran. Well, guess what? My ministry road people, we got the baton today. If you raise your hand today and you proclaim your place in the book of life, in the Lamb's book of life, you are written, and you have a reservation in heaven itself. You are who I'm talking to today, because you are the people of God. I could have walked this earth at many different times, because God had my name written down in what is called the book of destiny, the book of life. That is the book that God says, this one's going to come off the assembly line in 1956 of July 31. There's going to be somebody, and I gave him a heavenly name. His mother and his father's going to name him something different, but he has a heavenly name that when he expires his earthly mission, he will come to me, and I will give him a name that's in this book of destiny, that's in this great big book of, I was going to get a big book to show you, in this book of destiny, and that's going to be a name that nobody else ever had or will have. It is as individual and personable as the fingerprint on his hand, and nobody will ever be like Charles Miller, Mr. C. Ain't gonna happen. And together we make up the people of God. I want you to understand right now that you are so important to God that you have no idea. You just have no idea how important that you are to God, and we have a job to do. We are individual, and we were custom made by God. If you are custom made by God, that brings a lot of value to you. That makes you rare and very pricey. I know you was asking this morning. You rolled over in the bed and you asked your wife, and I know you asked this in question this morning. Hey, baby, what? How many people are on the earth right now? I know you asked her that. That's important. And being ever so wise, she told you and said, 7.8, almost 8 billion people walk the earth right now. Wow. Woo! 8 billion people on the earth right now. Well, how could I be important if there's so many people on the earth right now? When I pray, does God hear my prayer? I mean, all them many people on the earth. You think about that, but let me tell you what God is able to do. Rarity makes things valuable. Somebody posted on Facebook, and I like to collect bottles, old bottles. I find the old bottle, man, I'm all excited. Oh, yes. And somebody found some old bottles. I'm like, man, I get all excited about that, man. You know, who touched this bottle? Who drank out of this bottle? I'm something wrong with Mr. C, okay? I cherish life in the life that used to be. I do. Anyway, the rarer something is, the more rare something is, the more valuable it is. 7.8 billion people on this earth. What makes you important? Because there's not one of them that has your same fingerprint, the same iris that you have, the same DNA whatsoever. You was custom made by God with a purpose. Talking about the people of God. So, when you sit in your quiet hour and you say, hey, you know what? In this busy world right now, I must be important. Am I here all alone? Am I just a number? God says you've never been just a number. Matter of fact, whenever he said the lily of the field, they're not worried about how they look and how they clothe. God takes care of the lilies in the field. He said that a regular common English sparrow, there's so many sparrows, so many, just a common bird. It's not pretty like the old mandarin duck and like a swan and everything like that. Just a plain old common sparrow, kind of brown, not as pretty as the rest of the birds. And God used that bird right there. He says when that sparrow falls to the ground, takes its last breath, God himself knows about it. How much more does God know about you? When you start to grasp that concept, then you begin to realize that maybe on this earth right now that you are very, very important to God. I always wanted to be important. I'll tell you that right now. I always wanted to make a difference. Always wanted to make a difference. So the value of things. 7.8 billion people on the earth right now. So how can I possibly be important? You are an individual. There's no other human that was ever made like you. All right, you got that, Willis? Okay. Did I explain that well enough? Let's prove an individual's importance to God. I'm talking about the people of God. And I'm going to tell you where I'm going to go with this sermon. God has always picked out a remnant of people that listened to him. That remnant of people was required to do something for him because he's all that God has right now on this earth. I love Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Moses, and Aaron, and Joshua, and I could go on. Peter, Paul, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All them people have tremendous stories, but they're not walking this earth right now, and they can't do one thing, not one thing, to do what's most important to God right now, and that's to get a soul's 7.8 billion people on this earth right now, and to get as many as you can's name written in the Lamb's book of life so that God can have eternity with them forever. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Moses, Joshua, none of them. Father Abraham, Elijah, Elisha, none of them can do one thing right now that is the most important quest of God. It's up to you and me, because today on this earth, you and I are the people of God. Let me tell you what, Father Abraham, he can't put prayer back in our public schools. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they can't do a thing to change this corrupt government that's up before us right now. They can't do a thing about the coronavirus. They can't get anybody on this earth to change from their wicked ways and serve God. Who's gonna do this? The ministry road, God's people, the people of God that walk this earth right now. God says you are the ones to face the matter at hand. The war that we fight against principalities and powers of the darkness is the war that not Abraham fights right now. It's the war that you and I fight today for God. The people of God. That's who we are. So that being said, Lord, how important are we right now? You ever had your boss come talk to you and they say, I remember when the grain elevator blew up. And that was such a tragic thing, and so many things that has happened in this world that's tragic. And I remember a relative of my family worked at another grain elevator, and he walked up to him, he says, do you understand now with the tragedy that happened when that grain elevator exploded in Westwego? I think that was in the 70s. He says, do you understand how important your job is? I said, yes, sir, I do now. I do now. One spark, one situation not taken care of or looked after. I was reading and looking at the effects of Chernobyl. There's about 20 miles, thank God it's only 20 miles, but there's 20 miles of a no man's land that is not even habitable by life, that won't be affected by cancer for the next 100,000 years. How important was somebody's job at that Chernobyl plant 3 or 4 decades ago? God's looking at you right now, and he's saying, hey, Miss Brenda, hey, Samuel, Brother James, hey, Trish, Melanie, Nicole, Kathleen, Elizabeth, Trish, James, Bernadine, Wynette, Mr. C, Mrs. C, do you understand there are 7.8 billion people walking this earth right now, and we got to get their name written in the Lamb's Book of Life? I go to that book every day and I look at the angel that writes that down, and I'm like, hey man, who y'all got in here now? And I want to cry. God himself says I want to cry when I see people's name getting taken out. What is going wrong? Has the shepherd let the sheep walk out of the field? Has he not stopped and let the faithful do their thing and go after that one sheep? The people of God, do you understand how important your job is? Oh man, I know how important it is for a doctor to heal somebody and be able to cut cancer out of them so that they can live. We pay that doctor $300,000 to $500,000 a year to do such a thing, and we don't worry about it. Man, we pay a football player that is the quarterback of a team $10 million, $15 million a year to excite us on a foolish football game, man. How much value is placed on the people of God that can take one soul and get his name written back into the Lamb's Book of Life and make heaven their home? How much more important, what would you pay for the value of a man or a woman that's got that much talent? Priceless. Priceless. I'm here to tell you that you're more important than any doctor you've ever met. You're more important than any songwriter you've ever been able to meet. Any author, any football player, any athlete. How many of you ever met an athlete and you said, oh my God, can I get your autograph? And you get his autograph or her autograph and you say, man, you ain't gonna believe. I used to brag like, man, I got a chance to meet, Don Henley and Timothy B. Smith and some of those guys, man. I got a chance to talk to them and they know me, man. Oh boy, yes indeed. Oh yeah. And I was so proud that I met them people, thinking that they were so important. And God tells me right now, how important do you think you are? You're the people of God, and I don't have anyone else to win and save this world except you and your people, because that's your job right now. That's how important you are. Moving on. How important are you? I talked to you. There was a book in heaven that's very, very important. And that book will help me to understand. I just learned about this book not that long ago. And it's a book that's in heaven that records God's initial plan for you to be born. I think I'm going to put somebody on this earth named whatever. And they're going to be put on this earth and they're going to be born in the year 2021, April 25th at 10:35 a.m. But God wrote that name in that book many, many, many years before that. How long, I could not tell you. That doesn't say. But there's a name in that book of everyone that was ever going to be born all the way until it's done and finished, and it's not going to happen anymore. After the millennial reign and the whole 9 yards. Nope, done. My manufacturing of mankind is over. No one else will be born. No one else will die. Your name was in that book. Call the book of the living the book of destiny. There's the book of the living. There's the Lamb's book of life. There's the book of tears. There's the book of remembrance. And there's a series of books that in Revelation says, and the books were opened. But there's a series of books, probably about 5 books, that God records things in. The book I'm talking to you about right now is the book that says that you are alive. You've got a serial number. The Bible, I'll read it, the book of the living, Psalms chapter 139, verse 16. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members, the hairs on my head, the iris in my eye, the fingerprint on my thumb, the way I talk, the tone of my voice, the DNA that science finally figured out. Hey, man, look at this. We got the recipe of Mr. C. Got a lot of cayenne pepper in him and stuff like that. Too much cayenne pepper, too much salt. Oh, yeah, they should have cut down on a lot of things with that boy. But you know what? That's him. I'm joking, but that's the truth. Joking about the cayenne pepper and everything, okay? Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members are written, which in continuance was fashioned, when as yet there was none of them. What does that mean? Basically what he's saying in Psalms chapter 139, verse 16, he says, in my book I wrote down what you was going to look like, what you was going to sound like, everything about you, and you're going to be born. And there won't be anybody ever, ever, ever before or after you created the same way that you are. Nope. I'll tell you this much. I used to do carvings. Told you that. And I've spent 200, 300 hours doing a carving and a painting. If I go to do that same carving again, no way at all is that other carving the same as the first one I did. Paint's going to be a little bit different. The mixture's going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to have, I could do 1 billion of them and none of those carvings would wind up the same way. And if anybody touched one of them carvings that I carved and put so much time into it, I would be pretty mad. That's why you don't mess with the agenda of what God created you. Just a little sermon, a little insight there. Kind of gets God pretty mad. Where does mankind put most of his efforts today? Where do we put our efforts in today that makes us think that, in order for, when we look at how important we are? The best sellers right now, I'm talking about right now the people of God, and I'm going to shift over to what God expects us to do as his people. I am a Christian. 78%. Oh boy. Christianity is written on a survey is dropping right now faster than the stock market after Joe Biden became president. I'm telling you, man. Maybe I shouldn't have said that last thing, but I couldn't help myself. It's dropping faster right now than the stock market. It's disappointing more people than you can believe right now. Christianity is going down. The people claiming to be Christians is dropping. It's dropping. I'm talking about the people of God. 7.8 billion walk this earth right now. 7.8 billion walk this earth right now, and I think statistically, I don't know if I wrote it down, but 58 million people died this year. That statistic might be wrong, but it's a lot. Every day, it's probably further in my sermon. Let me move on. But anyway, there's a lot of people. But anyway, let me move on. What people are interested in today is not so much maybe that they are the people of God. That's a very important thing. Bestsellers today, I said, well, if I can look at the bestsellers today, I would know what people are interested in. What's the bestsellers today? The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley, bestseller right now at the top of the charts. The Millionaire Next Door, bestseller. John Maxwell, How to Live Amongst the Giants. That's another bestseller. Going by memory on that one. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to be important. Everybody wants to see. I constantly get bombarded with that people tell me how, Mr. C, how you can become a millionaire almost overnight. Excuse me, who told you that was my interest anyway? Because what shall it gain a man, profit a man, if he should gain the whole world and lose his soul? Send me a Bible. Send me a big Bible. So you know what I went and did, huh? I went and got me the biggest Bible I could find. That's a big Bible. Yeah. I don't want to know how to win money. I don't want to know how I can do things to make me rich and famous. I don't want to know about walking with the giants in this world and how to slay the giants in the business world. I want to know how I can persuade men and women and children to get their names written back into the book of life because they changed from God. That's more important right there than going to medical school. That's more important than passing the bar exam to become a high-priced fancy lawyer. Oh, yes, one call. Call me. I will straighten up your life. If anyone comes against you, call me. One call, that's all. Before you write a check with me. Yeah, so I can get a third of it. That's why. Yeah. Call me. I'll solve your problems. Anybody comes against you, I'll solve the problem. I got news for you. I don't need you to help me. I'm not putting down doctors, don't get me wrong. But I happen to be a child of God, and I am very, very close to the greatest physician in all the world. He made a blind man see. He caused a dead man to get up out of the grave. David Copperfield don't impress me. He can make an airplane disappear in front of you. How you like that, huh? Jesus could walk on water, man. Huh. I don't need, if somebody comes against me, I don't need a lawyer. Because the Bible said that if I am for you, Jesus said, I'm for you, who in the world will be stupid enough to be against you? I got the greatest physician. I got the greatest lawyer. I got the greatest friend that anybody could ever have, and it's found in God's word. You know why? Because I'm one of them people of God. Give me some thumbs up if I didn't lose you right now. I'm a people of God. Yes, indeed. So if I find out what people's interested in today, I look at the bestsellers and they want to be millionaires. They want to be able to slay the corporate giants and they want to put money in their pocket and all these good things. Let me tell you what. You know what the finest sermon in the world is? Somebody told me something one time and I was talking to a couple of preachers and they said, hey, Mr. And I belong to a little club, a couple of different clubs, and they say, hey, man, you've been a pastor for a while. We see that ministry. Boy, look at all you thumbs. I love y'all, man. Look at all those, look at what's going on, and I look at the ministry road. Can you give me any advice? I'm a young preacher. I get scared when I preach and everything. Can you give me some advice? I said, I'll give you some advice. The greatest sermon you could ever preach is one that causes somebody to go get somebody saved. That's the great. I want to thank you for listening to the sermon part 1. Since it's fresh in your mind right now, I would encourage you to go ahead right now and listen to part 2. It's on our YouTube channel. Also, if you have an opportunity to give and you'd like to do so to bless this ministry, we reach out to an awful lot of people on Facebook Live and YouTube and social media, and we actually reach out to people across the world, believe it or not. We sure do. But hey, listen, it's a very easy way to do so, and I won't harp on it, but I'll just tell you real quickly. Easy text give to the number area code 504-584-8190. You just text that number and you text the word give, and it's easy. You can also find us by going to our Ministry Road app that you can download into your phone as well. Hey, listen, thanks again. I consider you a partner with me on this ministry road for our Lord. God bless you. See you in part 2 of this sermon.